welcome to Pastors Podcast Season 9. I really genuinely mean this. If you've listened to this the podcast at all, it's really great to have you with us. One of the greatest honors of my life is to be able to run with anybody building the local church.
Yep.
It's amazing, isn't it, Andrew, just getting around people that are just really committed to building the local church, seeing people reach, seeing marriages get healed, restored, people get discipled, families. I love all of it. So
yeah, it's inspiring. It's always great to know what's going on in the earth.
Totally. And I wish I could get around to every single pastor. I really mean this. We're around big churches, guys that are significantly larger churches than I have.
Yep.
And I'm inspired by them. I take a lot. But also, I get around guys that have churches that are a lot smaller. And I'm just telling you, I still look and go, you guys are doing a great job.
100%.
And I will absolutely steal things you're doing. This is how I decide. Like, when I go to a church, I'm like, oh, there's absolutely things that you're doing that are better than me, and I'm going to steal them. So I wish I could just get with every pastor and say, you're actually doing a good job.
Yep.
Keep it up. Eternity's going to show this. So great to run with you, and just thanks for jumping on wherever you may be. We got people from all over the world that join, and so encouraging getting all the DMs and the messages from people just talking about this. I do want to say this is the promo we have before every single episode. We do a pastors conference for pastors, church leaders, and their teams. We've got people that come from all over the nation and then different parts of the world. We do 2 a year. We do one in Sacramento in January here at our home church here in the Sacramento region. Andrew, I think you've been to every one of them.
Yep, we prioritize it every year.
Yeah, you guys are actually really gracious with us because the breakout sessions are some of my really maybe the highlight for me and I really only invite in leaders and senior pastors who would be main session guys, but because we're friends, are willing to come in and just pour themselves into a breakout session for these guys. And every single breakout session, I really mean this, is ones that I personally would want to go sit in.
Yeah,
and
high
take
level.
notes.
I agree.
And so that's in January. And then we also do a pastors conference every year in May in London for all of those in the UK and across Europe. Incredible. We got to get you over there eventually for that, because
that'd be fun.
What God's doing in the UK and Europe right now, it's just really profound. It's exciting. So great to have you with us. Really quickly, I never know in what order we're going to release these. So very quickly, give a quick bio of who you are.
Yeah, my name's Andrew Gard. We pastor Grace City Church in Lakeland, Florida, and grateful to get to do it. Our church has celebrated 10 years.
10 years. You planted it?
Yep. We planted it, and my wife, Christine, and I pastor it and lead it, and with an incredible team, incredible staff,
job.
And we love our church.
Yeah, one of the best raisers of leaders, is that the right way to put that I have ever seen in a local context. I want to talk about this real quick because we're about to have a guest on today, Steve Robinson, incredible pastor from Louisiana.
Yep.
But before we jump on, I was thinking about this, because we've been friends for a while now. I remember that first time we met down there in Lakeland, sitting at I found out about you guys because of SEU worship and Chase, and somebody's like, you got to get to know Andrew Gard. So I don't know, we went to coffee or something. Yeah.
And at a Starbucks.
We
sat outside.
Sitting outside, I remember. Yep. But getting to know you now for years, there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, oh, you're a different personality than I am, and I love it. I love it. But I'm fascinated by leadership. I'd like to know your input on this, your thoughts. I'm fascinated by leadership, of how much of leadership is just natural and how much of it's learned. So so when you're like, we joke about this a lot. This is the thing that, like, you don't really care what people think about you.
Right.
That's not something you had to learn. That's not something you disciplined yourself into. That's not something you just, it's kind of your, well, maybe I could be wrong. Forgive me I'm just assuming that.
Yeah.
I could be wrong with that. But you might have some amazing story where the Lord broke the fear of man in your life. It's just really mountaintop experience that I'm totally diminishing right now.
Yeah.
But some of it is you're just wired like that. God's created like that. It's not something you do. But then there's other things you have to learn. How much do you think of your leadership is just natural? Now, you've stewarded it.
Yeah.
I think stewardship is an issue. You've stewarded it well.
Right.
How much of your leadership and why you're successful at what you're doing is because you have just stewarded something that was natural, or because you've had to really actually buckle down, discipline, and learn something and shift a bunch of stuff?
Yeah, so it's that whole, is leadership, are leaders born or are they made? And oftentimes I think about it the way I think about my children. So, there was always this debate of nature or nurture, when you have children. And the thing that I've had, I have 6-year-old twins. The thing that I've discovered is I think there's a good bit that is there when you're born. I do think that because
just how God created you, how you're wired.
The way that I viewed my kids at 6 months old has kind of played out 6, 7 years later in terms of their demeanor and how I perceive them.
They'll be like that at 18 too. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
How they approach the world as a 6-month-old is how they approach it as an 18-year-old.
It's kind of wild to me. Yeah. And so I do think we are born and there's a range there. And so I always feel like with my children, I'm trying to get the most out of their range. And so I think the same is true of leadership. I think we are born with capacities, with propensities in certain ways. But I have seen, so I do think that there are some leaders that they're just born, they just naturally have a propensity for it. They've always been the captains of their team since they were 8 years old.
I've seen some guys, they just grow a church, and I'm like, dude, you just do that with your brain tied behind your back. It seems like.
Yeah. And then I've had other friends that maybe they weren't like the natural leaders, but they have learned it. And so here's what I think. I think the greatest thing you can learn is how to leverage the best things about you.
Yes.
And I think that's
how
leaders
limit the
liabilities.
Weak things about you. Yeah,
100%. So yeah, I've always had this sense of I don't particularly care what people think of me, as long as I didn't do a specific act that they can point to, because then I will feel bad if I make some joke at somebody else's expense and they feel bad. That will bother me. But as far as like if somebody doesn't like a decision I made or things like that, that doesn't bother me at all.
But that's not something you learned.
No.
Yeah, what's interesting, by the way, I'm going to mention a book that Ted Haggard wrote, and but it's a phenomenal book on free market cells, dog training, fly fishing, and reaching people in the 21st century. I think that's what it's called. But he actually, in the intro of his book, in the foreword, he actually kind of unpacked something that really helped set me free a little bit, in that he was talking through, he was just saying, hey, this leader's like this. This leader's like this.
Right.
This leader's like this. I'm not like that.
Yeah.
And he was kind of just unpacking like, this guy's successful because he's like that, and this guy's like that, but this is who I am. And it was a really interesting thing of like the ability to go, oh, that's who you are.
Right.
That's awesome. But this is who I am.
Yeah.
Corey Russell's a friend of both of ours, and he was just at your church preaching. I listened to Corey Russell, and the guy never tells one story.
No.
Doesn't say one funny anything. I mean, he's funny. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't have one funny, stupid story.
Yeah.
Just takes a thought and then unpacks scripture and connects scripture for however long. Where like every sermon I'm doing, I've got like 10 stupid stories that are like whatever. And part of me goes, that's just who you are, Corey.
Yeah, totally.
It's not who I am.
I remember talking to a great friend of mine, and they were getting ready to plant a church. And this is just what I told him. I said, hey, man, leverage the best thing about you. So I said, so the one, you got to be self-aware as a leader. So for me, for example,
that's it right there.
I've always felt like, man, the best thing I have to leverage is I win. So if you want to be a part of this, we're going to win.
He goes, the best thing I had to leverage is I'm a winner.
So we're going to win.
You want to be part of a winning team.
Yes. So
would you say that maybe the best thing about you is your arrogance as well? Do you think that possibly you leverage your arrogance?
Let me finish the thought.
Okay, all right, sorry.
And so it's like, I might not give you the warm and fuzzies. You might not like me. But man, we're going to win. We're going to win. We're going to have an impact together. And I was talking to my friend, and I said, dude, the best thing you have going for you is you are the most likable person I know.
Yeah.
Everybody likes you. So I'm like, leverage that. And what was amazing is he goes, okay, and that's what he did, and his church exploded because there's just tons of ways to skin the cat. There's just people, there are people that are brilliant minds.
Yeah.
And you're going, man, just leverage that, because that's when you're like
It's fascinating. There was a church, I don't know, they were 14, 15,000 in San Antonio. Never even heard of them.
Yeah, which is awesome. Always cool when that happens.
I never even heard of them. But so I was talking to the son-in-law of that pastor, and I'm like, help me understand, what has he done? And it was really, he goes, he's just super believable. Like, people just believe him.
Yep.
They just buy into him. Like, he's just, the authenticity, and I'm sure, listen, he's got leadership chops as well. At some level, you don't really grow an organization like that.
Yeah.
Or at least he gets some people around him that have those leadership. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you don't grow a church on accident.
I think that Bill up in Reading, who I was with for years, I actually think his leadership superpower is the level of leaders he gathers around him that are very loyal and committed to him.
Yeah.
So he's just like, he has completely leveraged his weaknesses by, he's got some people that are with him for 40 years, that are high-level leaders.
I mean, forever, that was Brian Houston's thing.
Yes.
Was the people that were around him were high level. Yeah.
It's incredible. So I at one level, I wonder if sometimes I look at other leaders and go, oh, that is awesome. That's not really my strength.
Yeah. And sometimes you wish it was.
I wish it was, because I want to win.
Yeah. Well, and there are times when I'm like, okay, I like my shtick, but sometimes it's like, but I also like John Tyson's shtick, and I wish I was that smart and had that vocabulary.
Yes, 100%. Read that many books and articles. No, you're exactly right.
Yeah, and so for sure, that's a...
So when you say that my strength is winning, and you look at somebody else and say, do you say, well, your strength is losing? Like, how do you? No, is that how you think in the world?
No.
I'm here to call you out on this podcast right now.
I mean, some people's strength is intellect.
Yes,
and
totally.
some people's strength,
yeah, the desire to say we are going to move the ball down the field and we're going to get it across that line.
That's what we're going to do.
Yes.
We're going to do that together. And if you want to do that, and if you're like, man, I got to be attached to that, then yeah.
Well, I'm excited to jump into our interview today. Conversation with Steve Robinson, incredible pastor. You know him as well.
Best.
In Louisiana. Just a pastor of pastors, just a phenomenal world-class guy who I've gotten to know recently and just been so impressed by. So I'm excited to jump on. Well, listen, I'm excited. First time ever. We shared this before. Pastor, I was actually, before I introduce you, I have this running thing in my head that anytime a pastor, doesn't matter how large their church is, doesn't matter how large their platform is, doesn't matter that in my head, you really want to be on the pastor's podcast. So this is kind of a bucket list moment for you. So we're just, this is how I get by in life right there. It's just in my head, imagining that stuff. It's so great to have Pastor Steve Robinson with us. Pastor, so good to have you with us on the podcast. Thanks for joining.
Man, super excited to be with you, Banning, and of course, Andrew. And I'm excited about talking to pastors, to leaders, just having a conversation about that. So we're honored to be with you guys, both of you.
We met recently, and very quickly you find out, oh, this guy loves people, loves pastors, super encouraging, believes deeply in people.
A leader's leader. That's what I said to Banning before we jumped on.
Yeah, and not just
a leader,
a leader's leader, a leader's pastor at some level. Not just somebody who's like coming and bringing, hey, here's equipping things and how to get your church from here to here, but actually like deeply believes. Deeply believes in people and encouragement. I've been around you a handful of times, and I just think this is the greatest marker. I left with more courage than I had. I left more encouraged and believed in. Right. So can you, though, for the people that are just that are getting to know you, can you give us some of your bio? We got a little bit of time, but give us some of your bio and how you got to where you are and what you're doing.
I'm from the New Orleans area, South Louisiana. Again, I kind of make jokes about Louisiana because the rest of the world does. We just got the internet 3 years ago. We literally, we got good food. That's what we say. We have good food, but down in New Orleans. But I've been pastoring Church of the King 26 years. Jennifer and I actually started in youth ministry, Banning. I went to Tulane University, got saved, radically born again. I was initially a football player, long story there, and got saved, then went to seminary, started a high school ministry called Next Generation Ministries, kind of a Bible club movement in the South. We did that in the 90s when I was in my 20s. And then at 30, my wife and I were sent to the north side of New Orleans to start a church, and we called it Church of the King. And people are not sure about that name. It sounds like kind of a charismatic Episcopal church. Church of the King. What is that church?
I'm fascinated by church names. How did you come up with that name?
All honesty, I did go to a church. It no longer exists. When I was in Bible school years ago, I went to college, Bible school, then seminary. Okay, I obviously needed a lot of help. And I went to a church that was called that. It disbanded, and it just stuck with me. I just liked the name. It felt regal. It felt gravitas, weighty.
Yeah, I love that.
And so that's what we did. So at 30 years old, 26 years ago, we started Church of the King. And I'll tell you, this is a year before a lot of my friends. I know, Andrew, a lot of you guys are connected with a lot of the ARC guys. And this was a year before, in a sense, ARC started. So we didn't really have a church plant model, a strategy, none of that, like a Bible, preaching, the whole thing. But God blessed it. tremendously. And it was God's sovereignty. It was just a supernatural thing. So for 6 years, and this is really interesting because I'm coming out with a book, which I know you want to talk about, but this is kind of the basis of it. 6 years, it was just supernatural, rapid growth. We grew from 19 adults to 3,200 adults, or 3,200 people the weekend before Katrina.
Jeez.
We have Hurricane Katrina, and then we lose 2,000 people.
Wow.
And like that. And when you lose 2,000 people, when you don't fall in sin for some, public exposure, it's like, what the heck, it broke my heart. We threw ourselves into relief, recovery. And I know now what was going on, but I completely burned out. I was completely PTSD after that. Relief, recovery, helping people, trying to get our church regathered back together. And then we started a big building project, 2008. In 2010, Banning, I crashed. And I had a big crash, not moral, nothing ethical, but I had kind of the proverbial burnout, people would call it. I think it's more than that. Here's a misnomer a lot of people have. If you're burned out, if you're tired, you take a nap. If you're traumatized, there's a different pathway towards healing.
It's interesting, yeah.
And so I realized now I was in full-blown PTSD as a pastor, and that really began a journey of 15 years. I went through counseling, a lot of healing, and a lot in a study. And so I'm excited, and I know one of the things that you and I have talked about is in January, I think we were at a conference together. You said, Steve, that talk, is that talk in a book somewhere, And so I'm excited that January 27th, my book, Soul Leadership's coming out. And it's really about my story of recovering from trauma, pain. Lots of guys, Banning, we're in the pastor business. All of us, Andrew, and there's a lot of hurting pastors. And here's the deal. They don't really know what's going on.
Let's have this conversation because, and I'm fascinated by this. You're an athlete.
Yep.
I was less of an athlete, but an athlete in high school.
Or an ex-athlete.
In my little world. Pastor Steve's talking about football. And it's interesting, whether you're an athlete or not, a lot of pastors are driven, are moving forward. There's a guy named Danny Silk who's with us who has written a bunch of books. He's, kind of the pastor counseling guy. And I remember being with him one time, and he just asked me this question. He said, hey, listen, if you sprained your ankle in a game, what would you do? I'm like, tape it up, get a shot. Like, I'm just going through this stuff. I'm trying to answer his question.
Keep going.
He goes, well, no, first you'd pull yourself out of the game. You'd assess what's going on with your ankle. And I'm like, I guess if you're a sissy, that's what you would do. It's funny because I think it is like, even what Pastor's talking about, it's this thing of like, I'm not sure enough people are actually stopping and going, what is going on inside of me? Is it healthy, not healthy, whatever else? And so I think, can you talk to us about what led you to this book and the premise of the book? Right. But are we just living in a world of ministry that is so going fast, so driven, that they don't just stop long enough? To go, I wonder if there's something going on inside of me.
Yeah. Well, I think you're hitting it. A lot of leaders, again, not all, but you kind of fit the framework of type A, the DISC analysis, D-I, Enneagram 8, so we're problem solvers, we're drivers. And I know that's not all, that's a stereotype, but what happens is, and this is really interesting, what happens is we get what's called chemical rewards of adrenaline hits and dopamine hits.
Wow.
And you get those rewards when every time you preach a message, a project, you build something, big attendance. So you get this reward, this chemical reward. The problem is that chemical touch on the inside of you can also be masking a brain that's traumatized from repeated stress. So it masks it in a sense. And one of the things, we've talked about this, man, I'm just so broken and concerned over the soul health of pastors. Again, it's a double-edged sword. Growth is awesome. We want to reach people. We want to reach cities. We want to build buildings. We want to expand. But all of that creates what's called expectations, which then creates a demand. And in order for the body to rise up to a demand, the body has to drip adrenaline to come up to it. So that's important. And you get into a lane of running fast and moving. So it masks your soul. That's what happens when a person finally, their body finally rebels and goes, enough. I'm not doing this anymore. And that's what happened to me. That's what happened to me in February 2010. And I'm going to tell you, the harvest is plentiful. Jesus said, hey, the laborers are the issue. And we need healthy pastors, healthy leaders. That's my heart. I know that's your heart. Both of you guys. So,
Pastor Steve, I want to go back a little bit. What you mentioned about, Katrina hits. You guys are growing. Katrina hits. 2,000 people leave the church, and obviously you talk about an external event like Katrina. And you guys are in Louisiana. We're in Florida. Banning's in California. So we're going to see our fair share of either cultural events that happen that are external, or weather events. Hurricanes that are going to come through and things of that nature. What were the lessons you learned during that stretch where you were like, man, we just went outreach mode and we went that, and I kind of fried out? What were the lessons? Because that obviously that hasn't been the last tragedy, the last thing that you guys have had to deal with. What were those lessons?
Well, and before he answers that, it's even more relevant now because it feels like there's a crisis every week that's hitting.
Yeah, let me say a couple things about that. First of which is, there's nothing wrong with responding as a leader. Obviously, it's kind of like, the house is on fire. Let's get everybody out. So God does design us with certain adrenaline surges for emergency cases. The problem is God never designed us for us to live in that hyper-aroused state. And so one of the things that I realized, Andrew, and it's a great question, is that I stayed in that state too long. I could have transitioned some of those responsibilities. So here it is. I was trying to lead a relief organization, and I was trying to lead a church to regather a church. And I did not understand the impact of stress, which creates a potential traumatic scenario in your body. This is important. When people think of trauma, they think of like an assault, an impact thing. But trauma is also cumulative. It's a problem with a board member. It's a kid that gets on drugs. It's a marriage challenge. So in other words, it accumulates. And when your brain, this is important, your brain's made up primarily of three parts: the brainstem, the limbic system, and then the prefrontal cortex. When you go through repeated stress, the operative word here is stress. When you go through repeated stress occurrences, boom, boom, your brain, it doesn't separate, but it actually restructures. Your physiological brain restructures. So one of the things that I've learned through this is I developed this thing in my book, Soul Leadership. I developed what's called a stress continuum. And the stress continuum is a template. And this is important. This has all come out of, I'm answering your question. This has all come out of this season. And the stress continuum is green, here it is, green, yellow, red. We all need a healthy amount of stress to grow. It's called eustress. Okay, you go to the gym, you work out. It's a little breakdown in your micro tears in your muscle. So that's good. Then we have what's called yellow or chronic stress. This is where a lot of pastors live, and they don't realize. See, here it is. Every time they say yes to something, they're taking on a demand and expectation. They're entering into chronic. But then there's what's called traumatic stress, red. Yellow's the cautionary stage. Whoa. You can't stay doing this. Slow down. You can't travel as much. When you enter into the red stage, there's three components: acute stress disorder, PTSD, and complex PTSD. What I've learned through this is I now have this kind of template in my mind, and I spell this out in the book, that and there's criteria. When you start seeing symptomology, there's symptomology. Okay, time out. I'm in a constant chronic stress scenario. If I don't stop and pull over, like Banning said, I'm going to move into that red zone. In that zone, my body's going to shut down. I'm now entering into PTSD. And so I think the one thing that I've learned is to monitor what's going on the inside. Number two, all entrepreneurial leaders think they have more energy than they have. They all do. And they're expending energy. So you have to have what's called systematic renewal habits to replace energy. Physiological, mental, emotional, spiritual. So here's what I learned. It's interesting. I went to Israel. This is what kind of predated my burnout in 2010. So I've got this Katrina thing, which is massive. Then I go through 2008. We're building a big $40 million building. I got to raise 20 million cash. We've raised 3.5 million. The market crashes. They pull our loan. So we got to raise $25 million. Our church has 3,500. We built back to 3,500. I'm under chronic stress. Yellow, about to go red. Here it is.
Oof.
And all of a sudden, I come to this place in my soul. I ignore what's happening on the inside, and I just keep pushing through. I ignore. And that's what I've learned. I'm no longer ignoring what's happening on the inside of me.
Good. Yeah.
Because that's really when you enter into dangerous zones. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
What I'm saying? It's being self-aware, internal aware.
So then once you're not ignoring it and you assess some things, where do you go with that?
Well, let me say something real quick before. That's the next question. I love that question. I found for me, it's interesting. It's a little bit different language, but and your book's talking about this, but helping leaders be aware of what's actually going on inside of them and recognizing it. It's almost like their dash lights are broken.
Yes.
It's like an oil light doesn't pop on to say you're low on oil. And I remember this was after COVID was pretty brutal for us. So I was just feeling thin internally. I'm like, why do I feel so thin internally? And I remember I was praying, and I'm like, Lord, I don't understand this, because stress, I mean, I've had stress before, and I a little different than what the way he's using the word stress, but I'm like, I've had stress. What is this? Like, and stress about finances can be solved when somebody gives me a check. All of a sudden, and that stress is gone. But the Lord just said this. He said, Ben, it's not stress that you're carrying, it's grief. So, but what happened with that was, I was like, grief? I don't even know what to do with grief. I've never even. So anyways, I called some guys, and then I got these books. One of the books that I read was talking about, it's not just the big grief. It's what he said. It's these small griefs along the way.
Cumulative.
And what it was that, you thought your daughter was coming home from college for a break and she didn't. It was these small things. And what I found was, and here's what I want to say with what Pastor's talking about. I wouldn't give that any credit, because as pastors, we deal with real grief. I'm talking about, I'm sitting with a family who just lost their newborn after a month in the hospital. I'm sitting with a spouse whose husband just cheated and left. We're sitting with real loss. And so it's interesting that you're saying this, because I'm with leaders and I recognize in my own life, all the yellow zone, I wouldn't give that credit at all. That's that's what we do.
Yeah, it wouldn't even register.
That would be green for me, even though it's not. Does that make sense? And so some of these little griefs that were happening, I wasn't taking time to grieve them, because I just was like, dude, I didn't lose a kid. Somebody left my church.
Yeah.
That doesn't count.
Yeah.
That doesn't count. You know what counts? Losing a baby.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't even realize it. And I think, Pastor Steve, you said this, like the cumulative, I was just sharing with Banning's team.
Yeah.
We're literally in the same place, Steve, that you guys said that you were. We're doing a $40 million project, and we got about same amount of people.
You think you're about to lose 2,000?
Man, I hope not.
I hope not. Jesus, please help him.
And we're doing this project, and one of my council guys, we had this issue come up.
One of your board members.
One of my board members. I called them, and there was an issue that we were running into. And me and Christina were going to sacrifice pretty big. And then he goes, hey, we're sacrificing with you. You take 50% of that. We'll take 50% of that. We're in it with you. And I started bawling.
And you're not a crier.
And I am not a crier. And I'm talking about for 25 seconds, uncontrollable, could not speak. And I'm bawling. And Steve, to your point, I didn't realize what was pent up.
You've been carrying something that, and this is why I think this book is so important, honestly.
Agreed.
Is because it's going, hey, that's going on.
Right.
You ignoring it or not recognizing it or not monitoring it is a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that popped up and you go, oh, I'm carrying something.
And I didn't know until that pressure valve was released.
Yeah. And I think, again, part of the design and wiring of a leader, but also part of the positioning of a leader, again, who can we talk about in building resilience, having a core group of advisors you can be transparent with. But after all, it's almost like, hey, we should push through. We should push through. Let me just go on record. There is moments to push through.
Yeah, sure.
But I'll tell you this, it's not in every season. I mean, again, you can't produce every season. There's winter, there's spring. You guys know, we teach all this.
Yeah.
And I think it's giving yourself permission to step back. That's what the Sabbath is once a week, right? But it's also giving yourself permission. It's okay to grieve. Like you said, it's okay to grieve. Grieve is your body's emotional, physiological response to loss.
Yeah.
To lost potential, lost relationship, and it's okay. Self-compassion in the counseling field, I'm not a counselor, but I've done a lot of study, and I've had a lot of counseling, and a lot. By the way, I can recommend some if you need some, but anyway. But self-compassion is a big term there, and what they're really saying is give yourself space to be able to what? Feel, grieve. I know we don't live by our feelings, right? We live by faith, but God has still given us a gift to feel. To be healthy human beings.
Pastor, what would you say to this? Because I want to go into the question that you asked, which I think is the question about where do we, once they recognize it. But I was finding it during COVID in particular, like I felt like, so many people left California. We were bleeding at our church, finances, staff, people offended, whatever else. But then I have to get up on Sunday and I have to be full of faith in the moment. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't get up there and bleed on Sunday. And, and I wasn't hopeless. I don't know how, you know how it is, right? But I got to get up and I got to be full of faith. I got to be full of vision for what God's doing. How do you give advice to pastors who are Katrina hit?
Yeah.
We just lost 2,000 people. I'm having to figure this out myself.
Yeah.
But I got to show up to our staff and I got to show up to our church.
Where's the altar call that pastors can respond to?
Or how do you have both of those going on?
Right.
I'm even talking about how do you have those two things happening? I have to be full of faith and vision.
Yeah.
But I'm also having to work through this thing.
It's interesting you bring that up because, when COVID took place, you bring up COVID. COVID took place. We basically lost 50% of our church. My friends are freaking out. They're like, "Oh my God!" And I'm like, and I'm like, "Steve, why are you?" And I said, "Well, I've kind of done this before.
I've been here before."
And look, unfortunately, we lost 2/3 before, so I've kind of this is my second time around. It's going to be okay. And what I think is important is let me say it this way. I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to answer it this way. Building resilience. Here's the deal. As a pastor, we're going to deal with crisis. All of these things are crisis. COVID's a crisis. Hurricane Katrina's a crisis. Going through a building campaign when there's funding issues, a crisis. So you have an option. You can either handle that crisis from the standpoint of, hey, I'm just going to tackle like everybody, or you can be intentional on the front end and build what's called resilience. Resilience is two things. It's your ability to absorb adversity or your ability to bounce back. So in my book, I talk about three, this is not linear, but it's three components. One is I talk about in the soul leadership cycle. I talk about trauma, triggers, and terrible habits. But the second part is I talk about the resilience equation. This is important. So I know crisis is coming. I know it's coming. That's part of leadership.
Yes.
So it's my responsibility to build resilience on the front end. Not to avoid crisis, but to be able to absorb crisis with enough capacity where I'm not knocked out of the game. How do I do that? Through relationships, through physical health. By the way, I never realized this. I was going to tell you, when I burned out in 2010, I was always a workout person because I think that we separate these. I love the Jewish mindset. They don't separate mind, body, spirit, all that Old Testament. The Greeks began to separate.
Yeah.
Well, the Bible, we have to see ourselves holistically. How you feel physically affects how you feel spiritually and mentally. So resilience is relational resilience, mental, physical, health, all of this. So I went to Israel, led a trip to Israel. And I hurt my right foot because I wore the wrong shoes for 2 weeks. Within 2 months, my left knee began to be hurt because I was overcompensating.
Yeah.
That was a year before. So for 1 year leading up to my real crash in February 2010, I wasn't working out. See where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
So where I'm going with this is what I talk about for pastors. I love the fact that the resurgence of physical health, I think it's huge. It's critical. The physiological components and benefits to the brain.
Yeah.
So we're going to build resilience with physical. We're going to build resilience with our relationships, mental, emotional, nutrition, all of that. Why? Not because we're believing for a crisis, but we know it's going to come. It's part of life. So I think there's a way we can be strategic. I think that we can redeem the time by taking advantage of building. It's almost like getting enough fuel on board before you hit turbulence, knowing if you have to circle the airport 10 extra times, you don't run out of gas. Does that make sense?
Yes.
What I just said?
Yes.
Yeah, we're not believing for a crisis, but we're preparing for one.
That's it.
Yeah.
We're preparing. And as leaders, look, it's painful, man. I mean, I thought thoughts in 2010. I was like, man, I don't want to. I went to our board. I called our elders. I crashed. My wife came to pick me up. We went to a place in Alabama. The whole time I'm like, honey, I've not done anything immoral. There's nothing. I said, nothing coming out, but I'm just done. I wanted to quit. I was like, I couldn't take it. I broke down. And so now the last 15 years, I'm highly intentional, getting enough fuel on board, knowing that crisis is going to come. By the way, how do I know when my brain is traumatized? I want to go back to this. Banning, you can I go into this for a second?
Yeah, listen, this is absolutely.
The brain, I'm going to give you real basic 3 steps here. Brainstem, limbic system, prefrontal cortex. Real simple. It's much more complicated, but that's real simple. All right. When you're traumatized, your brain restructures. What do I mean by that? So what happens is where your logical thinking and your emotional brain right here should be in what's called homeostasis. When you're traumatized, you're easily triggered, which means your emotional brain, watch this, hijacks your prefrontal cortex, your reasoning, and it goes offline. It's like when a guy goes, I don't know what I was thinking. Well, let me help you. You weren't.
Right.
And so I think me understanding the brain has really helped me working with guys, helped me on my own recovery process. And so, building resilience on the front end, identifying those triggers and triggers are costly, but it's a sign that your brain is traumatized. Your brain is an organ. Your mind and your brain, it's almost like they're in the same, it's almost like they share a duplex. They share the same door, but they're 2 different duplexes, your mind and your brain. So I talk about how to renew the mind and how to rewire the brain and how they interface together too. So I'm saying a lot of stuff. I hope it's not too much.
Are you kidding me? This is what we're here for. You actually, in the book, you're dealing with, I would actually love to talk about young leaders for a second.
Yep.
You're dealing with the hidden crisis among leaders, but then, really kind of giving a vision for wholeness in our life, and then talking through all this stuff, talking through trauma and the brain and the science of it, and then also kind of the solutions. Here would be my question. I'm finding as we're walking with younger pastors and younger leaders, how do we get them to embrace this pre-crisis? In other words, we've all been through stuff, and so that kind of leads us to, hey, I burn out. I'm doing this with insecurity. There's so many leaders that I think are driven by insecurity, and because they're driven by insecurity, it's leading them to these or they haven't dealt with they have these unhealthy coping mechanisms that they just had as a kid. My question is how do we help younger pastors who maybe haven't hit crisis, haven't hit burnout, but just to go no, let's build a life that is whole. Let's build a life that is healthy. Let's build a life that understands yellow and green and red.
Yes.
So here's a really cynical question. I know it's possible. Is it possible to do this from a place of vision and not just response to pain? I know it is, but you know what I'm saying? How do we help people get vision for this, not just respond? Guys that decide to go work out because they had a heart attack.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right, guys that change their diet because all of a sudden they almost died, and so now they're at the gym and they're losing weight and they don't eat fats. You know what I mean?
How do we do that on the front end?
How do we do that with these young guys? Because what you're talking about, I'm like, well, so many pastors our age would be like, yep, I'm buying the book immediately. Yeah. I need everything that's in there. But I'm also going, you 25-year-old?
Let me tell you, it's a great question, Banning. And here's what I would say to a young leader, is we got to shift the paradigm with leadership. Leadership is about stewardship. And it first begins with the heart. Proverbs 4:23, watch over your heart, tend to your heart, for out of it springs the issue of life. Leadership is not here. Leadership begins right here. And that's why soul leadership precedes self-leadership, which precedes team leadership, which precedes organizational leadership, which precedes impact. So what I want to do with young leaders, when I have an opportunity to speak to young leaders like you guys, I say, guys, this is the point. the first stewardship you have is your heart.
Mm.
I love skill sets and understanding, equipping and communicating and all the above. All that's important. But your very first stewardship is your heart. If I can get them to see that, how is your heart? What's coming out of your soul? The second thing that I would say is that I would tell them, and I tell guys this all the time, and social media has not helped with this at all.
Nope.
Right.
Run your race.
Yeah.
Run your own race. My race, and this is big for a young leader, we can be inspired. I know, Andrew, your church is amazing. Banning, we're inspired by you guys, inspired by your music. I can be inspired by you, but I'm not to compare myself with you.
Yeah, that's great.
And if I can tell a young leader to run their own race, I'm telling you, so many young leaders are burning out. They're frying out because they're putting somebody else's armor on.
Yeah.
They're putting somebody else's vision on. They're putting look, I can go to a conference and learn best practices, but I have a context that filters into, I have a design and a calling. And so I think young leaders, first thing I would say to a young leader is, number one, tend your own heart. Proverbs 4:23. Number two, I'd say run your own race, man.
Yeah.
I said, I love what John Wooden says, the great famous basketball coach out there with you guys. Good things do come out of California.
Yeah, not Southern California, but we'll give it. Go ahead.
Here's what he said. He says, be your best. There's a big difference between being your best and the best.
Okay.
Most contemporary Christianity is right here, be the best.
Right.
This is the race against your potential. Be your best.
Yeah.
So I would tell a young leader, your first stewardship is your soul. Then, of course, your bride, those of you that are married, you know what I'm saying, or for the ladies, you know what I'm saying, with their husbands and your children. And so it's your soul. Run your own race. And here's the other thing I would tell. And by the way, going back to the heart, I want to just address one thing, and then I'll say one other thing to young leaders. Because we are in a crisis right now, all that's going on in America, and I know this is international, but really globally. One of the things that I learned through Hurricane Katrina, even in my own mess, and even with me trying to I do understand that my job as a shepherd is to co-regulate the congregation. There's a term in marriage therapy world called co-regulation. When somebody is freaked out emotionally, they're what's called their nervous system is dysregulated. Mm-hmm. So to co-regulate in a spousal relationship, your calm brings their chaos into balance. Wow. So to co-regulate the congregation, that's why, when we went through a recent crisis in our nation, for pastors just to be calm and present, it co-regulates the congregation. By the way, I'll give you one other thing too.
Great word.
And I talk about this in my book. It's called mirror neurons. Your brain is designed neurologically. If you're walking down the street and somebody smiles at you, neurologically, it fires a neuron in your brain, you're going to smile back. You go from self-protection to openness. That's how you're doing. If you see me yawn, statistically, you'll yawn within 60 seconds. So we do have to realize as pastors, even in our pain, we can still co-regulate our congregation, and we can present calm. Neurologically, it produces calm. So it's a spiritual reality. It's a mental reality. And I tell young leaders this. Some of them are freaking out, posting all kinds of things. So just pause, breathe, regulate. Yeah. Tend your own soul. Run your own race. And I tell young leaders this all the time. Play the long game.
Yep.
Play the long game.
Let me ask this real quick about run your own race. Let's hang out there for a minute because
cool.
Pastor Steve, you have a large church. Pastor of pastors have, I hate defining success this way, but have long-term success. I was just at a pastor's gathering with Pastor Steve, and I don't say this self-effacing. I was the smallest church there by far. It wasn't even close. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. But I was realizing, like, younger years, man, that'd have been a different ball game about what I'm walking away with. You know, in a room with these guys that are building churches that are so much larger. My point is why do you think it's so hard for guys to run their own race? Like even for me, older, like I recognize it now, or I can kind of walk through that, or I can realize, the Enneagram 3 in me, or whatever else. It just loves significance. I view things as winning and losing.
Right.
So I'm not even in competition with you. Interestingly enough, if I went to your church, I wouldn't feel like we're in competition.
Right.
But you would remind me that I'm losing. Not losing to you, right? Not losing to you. I don't feel competitive with people, but it's like it's everything's reminding me whether I'm winning or losing.
Yeah.
So my question is, I'm older now though, so although that may pop up on my screen, I recognize it and don't have to choose it.
Yep.
Why do you think, Pastor Steve, it's so hard for these younger guys to run their own race and actually just be okay with that?
I mean, again, that's a deep question related to, self-worth and father needs and all that stuff.
Totally.
I mean,
we're going to solve it right now.
That's an anthropological question. We'd have to go, the basis of mankind's insecurity.
Totally, yes.
But I will say this. I'm 56. And of course, here's one of the things that if I can you guys are, I think, Andrew, you're a little bit younger. Banning, you're a little bit younger than me too. But there is a go for it in life. Look, I'm all in for inspiration. I'm all go to a conference, dream.
Yeah.
We can do it. So we can be inspired. I love that, right? But here's the thing, and we can employ best practices that are uniformly applied across the thing, right? It's like,
yeah, sure.
So that's good stuff. But what it negates is context.
Yeah.
What it negates is design of the senior leader and or the team. What it negates is providentially the season of the church. There's other variables that are not brought in.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. 100%, yes.
So I can go to your church, either one of you, and go, there is assimilation. I'm just making this up. Okay. There is assimilation. It's incredible. There's small groups.
Yeah.
And so as a pastor, I want to learn best practices, but I've got to come back and filter. I'm going to tell you what, you want to jack your church around, go to every conference and try to implement things immediately. I mean, you talk about helter skelter. And so I do think, though, there's a need. I tell you, I'm a friend of ours, Banning, that I think Andrew does as well. A guy that I've been his pastor for a long time, and his church is incredible. It's exploding. And I was his big brother pastor, and our church was bigger than their church, and I was always his mentor. Now his church is bigger. And that really tests you. By the way, most people want other people to succeed until they succeed better than them. I mean, can we just get it out there?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It's like, go for it.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
So proud of you.
Yeah.
So proud of
We were
you.
just talking about that.
Exactly. And so it pressed things in me. And then I realized, you know what? He's in a different context. I'm doing my best. So I don't know if it's solvable. I know it's a tension we need to manage because I do want to be inspired. I do want to learn, but I do have a different race.
Yeah.
My race is against my own potential.
It's great.
And if I maximize that, then I get to hear, well done, thy good and faithful servant. So I hope I'm answering that.
Yeah,
is this
100%.
addressing it?
No, that was great. I remember, Dino Rizzo, who we all love and know.
We love Dino.
I remember him saying, he goes, man, I was just so grateful that I was, that I planted Healing Place when I did. He goes, because, man, I remember when we hit 300, and he goes, I thought we had the biggest church in the nation.
The whole nation.
And so the problem is now we kind of know, or at least we think we know, and that's actually the scary part. We think we know what's going on in everybody's world, and so we're watching everybody's world on social media, getting discouraged, and I think that's a huge element of it as well.
Do you know that Jimmy Rollins?
Yeah, I love
who you connected us with him. We had him on the podcast. He said a phrase that was so fascinating. He said, "What would I do if I didn't know what anybody else was doing?" It was just this concept of like, oh my gosh, so much of what's going on inside of me is because I do know what everybody. And I'm not talking about best practices.
Yeah,
I was like, well, what's the church I would build if I wasn't insecure about everybody else's church?
Yeah.
Like it's so when you're 300 and you have no idea what anybody else is doing, you're just stoked. You're just so encouraged.
Yeah. And the thing that I would go back to, and Steve, you talked about this a little bit when it comes to young leaders too, is I think guys like Steve, I think, are doing a phenomenal job. That's why I'm so excited for the book, because I think, Steve, what you're doing here is you're letting us know you're not just, showing us your church where it is now. Guys like me that are 10 years into the journey, You're showing us how it got there, because sometimes it's easy to look at a church like yours and go, man, Grace City, like, all right, like that's where we're going. And sometimes I think for us, we see the end product.
That's Matt Brown today. Didn't plant his first campus his first multi-campus until 12 years in.
Right. And so it's great for guys like me to, I think, kind of see the journey of people like you and Pastor Chris and all the people that we admire so much.
Agreed.
Yep.
Yeah. And by the way, I want to go back to that stewardship. Here's one of the things I tell leaders all the time. Leadership is stewardship. I don't want anything in my hands that God did not put there.
Yep.
Because extra stress, okay, there's life stressful enough. There's hurricanes, there's different things. But if you're putting things in your hand, I tell guys at multi-site, it's like, hey man, build a healthy, again, whatever the terminology is. I know we're not supposed to say main campus.
Are we not supposed to?
Yeah, church. Yeah.
Broadcast, satellite, what are we calling it now? Mothership.
Whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? Whatever the term is, build a healthy, and then look at it as a cascading effect where it flows into another. If you need to reach more people, that's fine. If you have people, but man, don't come back. Well, they're planting 5 campuses. We need to plant a campus. Really? Why?
Yeah.
Why do you need to do that? I've talked more guys out of not planting campuses.
Right.
Not because I'm not into that. We have multi-site, but they're not ready.
Yeah.
They're not ready. Make the home base strong. And I think, Banning, you're so right, though, with the social media and comparison. And I don't think we solve it, but I think that if we keep it out and ahead, are we being motivated by it,
Stewardship of what God put in your hand. Such a brilliant thought.
Yep.
It's funny because Chad Veach, who's a friend of both, we both know Chad, but I remember I was feeling so much pressure to write, and I do feel like I need to write again, and I've got this book, but I'm like, I gotta feel like I need to write again. I need to write again. And I couldn't quite, why do I feel like I need to write again? And then I realized that Chad was coming out with another book. And we had released a book, our last book, similar time. And all of a sudden I'm like, I got to write it. And part of me goes, wow, why have I not been able to write another book right now? Like, is my leadership lid not that high? Can I not handle all that's going on? And I realized the only reason I thought I should write another book
is an external force.
Was because somebody that I respect and love popped out another book before I did. Yeah. And not even competition. Yeah, it's just, it's communicating to me, maybe I'm not as good of a leader as I thought I was.
Yeah.
I should be able to write another book and do the church and do this, and I should be able to pop. And so it is fascinating. But that thought of like, is that what's in my hands though to steward?
Right.
To steward. Because I tell leaders, steward their soul. I tell leaders, run their own race. I tell leaders this, God really is in control. And there's that tension between God's sovereignty and man's responsibility. And I know there's lots of thousands of years of Christian, at least 2,000 years of Christian discussion. God's sovereignty, man's responsibility. I often said this, everybody starts out planting a church as an Arminianist. Like, it's all up to me, we got to do it. And then by the time you're my age, you've been beat up, you've gone through a bunch of stuff, you almost quit a couple times. You're like a Calvinist, it all belongs to God. I'm joking a little bit, but there's a truth. And here's what I would say to a young leader. Go for it, but worry less. God really is guiding you. God really is guiding you. And a lot of the fear, a lot of the anxiety we have, it is self-created. We're getting ahead of God. Let me tell you one other thing. This is a big one I would tell young leaders. Here it is. Sometimes God really does take people out of your life. What I mean by that is, and this is big. Oh, this is big. We're gathering. We want people. We've had some painful transitions, like everybody, off of our staff, out of our church. And I think at times, Banning and Andrew, I think I tried to save people. And look, I want to go the extra mile. Yeah. I understand we got to be a second mile person. Paul said, I didn't only just impart the gospel, but also my own soul. We want to be people. I get all of those scriptures. But I do believe that God does remove people at times when things have gotten a little bit unhealthy. They may need a new environment. And I tried to save people sometimes. And what I realized through a lot of years of counseling is I think at times I was trying to save myself.
Yeah.
I was trying to save myself from loss. I was trying to save myself from the trouble of having to navigate what was going to happen. And so we love people. We bless people. We always tell people the porch light's on and the back door's open. But even on staff, I think that I've I think I fought too long at times, and I really did a kind of an autopsy of what that situation was. It was there was something in me I was trying to save myself. Yeah. And I don't know if that helps, but I tell
100%.
young leaders, love people, pour into people, but Jesus, there's a Judas, the people move on, and love them, do your best. And so all of these things helps to manage stress in the soul of a leader. Does this make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Andrew's thinking of 3 people right now he's going to let go when he gets home.
Hey, Pastor Steve inspired me. I was talking to him.
Wait, no, there's no apologies on this podcast. We're talking around a kitchen table.
And I'm terrible. I cry with people. I'm not. I just like,
get
oh
it.
God.
No,
so
what a huge lesson.
Yeah.
What a huge lesson. Yeah. Pastor Steve, your book's coming out. Soul Leadership comes out in January. So just shortly after these podcasts will be out. And so make sure you pick up that book. Hey, listen, where can people, if they want to listen to your sermons, if they want to follow you on Instagram, where are they going?
Yes, steverobinson.com. You can go there. You can pre-order the book. By the way, all the proceeds of that goes to the launching of our downtown campus. We're opening in New Orleans. Excited about that.
Cool.
1,200 seats right down in the city, an urban church. We have real hard for that. All my stuff's on there. All of it. And of course, we'd love to be able to help people. I'd like to say, Banning, if I could say one other thing about the cross related to this book. I looked at the atonement, and this is important. One of the things I've learned, because I've gone through a lot of therapy, a lot of trauma therapy in my own soul. One of the things I've learned about the atonement is that in the atonement, it not only deals with your spiritual, your mental, your emotional. Trauma counseling deals with what's called bottom-up counseling, not top-down where you're dealing with prefrontal cortex.
Sure.
In the book, I talk about why it is that in worship, and I have studies, scientific studies, why it is during worship and healing prayer do people feel a release. And I talk about how the Holy Spirit unlocks your amygdala and your hippocampus, which is where your memories are.
Yeah.
And I talk about inner healing and how it heals the brain. And so I'm real a big proponent of that. I believe as Christians, I believe in counseling, and even in secular counseling, there can be some good. But spirit-filled men and women of God that understand the power of the atonement, they understand brain health and brain healing. The Holy Spirit is the missing ingredient in trauma therapy. Yeah, so I talk about that in the book. I'm so excited. But yeah, steverobinson.com.
I love it.
They can get that. And man, it's so good to be with you, man.
Pastor,
I respect both of you greatly.
Pastor, appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come and just pour into pastors and leaders who are building church. So thanks for doing that. We're excited. I told you I did. I had listened. I'd actually called you because I wasn't at the conference, but I said, where can I get that sermon? And so the team over there sent it to me, and I said, hopefully there's a book. And sure enough, I was prophetic. There was a book coming. So, Pastor, thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate it. Honestly, I love getting around guys who I don't think there's enough intentional, healthy talk about internal health around pastors. What's funny is a lot of guys that I know, they're afraid if they get internally healthy, they'll stop being driven.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's even a guy that we would all know who said, I don't hire healthy people, I hire broken people, because healthy people are, which I don't actually agree with.
What is it, healthy people have boundaries or something?
Healthy people aren't driven. They're not, and so the unhealthy, I think one of the reasons why we allow pastors to remain unhealthy is because there is an unhealthy motivation that pushes them forward. If you look at...
We also have no mechanism for getting them. Like, what would be the mechanism outside of just removing them altogether?
It's a great point. I find the healthier I get, the slower I get. It's great. And I'm a possessed...
I feel the opposite.
Well, no, I'm not. It's not that I'm less effective, but it's the book analogy that I used.
Yeah.
I'm not popping books out every year.
Yeah.
And I probably would if I had that thing going on inside of me that I need. Here's my point. This is not a study I've done, but if you took 100 CEOs in America, you think 90 of them are trying to prove to their father, who's no longer alive, that they're like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're still, so that gets results.
Yeah.
So,
man, I just have always found the unhealthier I am, that's when I'm hiding out from my staff. And that's funny. And that's when I'm indecisive in decisions.
It's weird for me. Like it's because my unhealthy is I want to be accepted and I'm insecure. So I have to go see, you don't care about being liked.
Yeah.
So I want to be liked. So I want to be accepted. It's for me, that's so when I'm unhealthier, I've got to get results. I've got to get fruit. We've got to have more people at a conference. We've got to sell it out. We got to do all this type of stuff so that people will go, hey, that's a good leader right there.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to come be a part of our circle over here? That's in my head.
Yeah, sure.
It's fascinating. You
go
go
the
internal.
opposite.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I go the opposite. When I'm unhealthy, I'll be in a meeting and I'm a usually very decisive leader, and I'm like, why is this such a difficult decision for me? This is an easy decision. So that's when so for me, it's easy because I know when I'm unhealthy.
Yeah.
Because I'm going, man, I'm indecisive. I'm kind of hiding out from the team. I'm not around as much.
That's so fascinating.
And so, yeah.
Well, listen, man, such a great conversation. Really love Pastor Steve and what he's doing. And honestly, the book, I think, is going to just be such a resource for people. So, all right, guys. Andrew, you've been with us now. You know how we have to end this thing. Pastors Conference.
Yes.
January in Sacramento.
Come hang out with us.
London in May, as well as we do have a School of Leadership that starts every September. It's online 2 days a week in the morning. And there are leaders from all over the world that join us. And there's quite a few pastors as well. And we just go through revival leadership, healthy leadership, effective leadership. So you can check that out as well. jcsl.online, I believe, is the website. So we'll do it again, guys.